simple to book Mercedes Martinez. Just let her go out, do her thing, and give her all the championships, and then she can leave and go somewhere else and take those champions. It's
Yeah.
simple. Maybe it's simple to me, but I had told her, I had reached out to her, and I had said, just exactly that. I was like, you're honestly one of my favorite wrestlers of the last 10 years, and it would be really cool to put something together for you.
Today's guest of the Last Minute Wrestling podcast is wrestling team composer John Kiernan. Hi, John. How you doing?
I am doing well. It is 3:02 here on the New Jersey time, but we're doing well. It's the afternoon here. I know it's nighttime beer time, so I'm excited to talk wrestling themes, music, everything from all over the board. How you doing?
I'm doing great. That's 9:02 p.m. here here in Italy. I'm on the East Coast as well of Italy, even though we don't really diversify East or West Coast because it's so thin in Italy, you know that. but I'm on the East Coast as you are. So yeah, we get to see the sunshine the first thing in the morning. That's when the sun rises. I love it. I absolutely
Yep.
love it. I don't know if it happens to you as well, but wherever I go to the West Coast, I call it the upside down sea because usually I see the sun rising on the sea, not the sunset on the sea. To me, that's weird. That's just weird.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so funny now that you mention it too. And my dad would kill me because my dad's like an avid traveler and he's always like, you have to read maps, you have to know cartography and things like that.
Yeah.
And he'll always be like, the sun rises here, it sets here. And I'm like, oh, it's great. But like throughout my life, I always forget the where and the what and the how of it. I'm just like, I know I lived in Florida for about 10 years and I saw the
Uh-huh.
sunrise and sunset, and the sunrises and sunsets here. So as long as that's happening, we're okay. So
Okay, but let's leave it for I don't know, a weather forecast podcast to talk about that. We're here to talk about the wrestling. We're here to talk about some rock and roll. I was actually listening to your team songs while I was preparing for this interview, and man, you got some catchy tunes. And I want to start with one of the probably, I don't know, lesser known because it is not associated with more prominent or known mainstream wrestler. There is a song, "Everybody Wants to Be Rich." Is that the title? I'm getting it right? Yeah.
yep.
That's
Yep, that's
super
absolutely
catchy.
correct. Yeah.
That's
Ah,
super. That's a super catchy tune. I loved it. I was like banging right now. Yeah, like everybody wants to be rich. Yeah,
yeah, there you go. See, it's stuck in your head now. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Uh, First of all, because I call myself a musician, even though I'm a pretty failed musician. I'm more of a singer anyway, and is I've always found fascinating the writing process. That song has a kind of an interesting like melody for the voice. At least that's what I got a lot of it, and that alternates a lot with your guitar riffs. How do you write these parts? Do you have like you wake up with a melody in your that becomes a riff or something like that?
It really depends. And a lot of the times I get asked, like, what's the process for writing music for you? What's the process for writing a theme? And I
Mm-hmm.
remember being younger and always thinking that there was, I always remember thinking, oh, okay, someone
Uh-huh.
comes up with the lyrics first and then they put the
Yeah.
music. It really depends on the theme. For that one, for Rich Maxwell's theme, Everybody Wants to
Mm-hmm.
Be Rich, that one, the guitar riffs and kind of the music came first because with Rich Maxwell, his whole gimmick is that think kind of like Rick Rude, where he's like the main attraction, somebody who's like, you
Mm-hmm.
have to look at me. Like it's a very self-absorbed, not the wrestler. The wrestler's an amazing person, but I mean his gimmick is totally about self-absorption,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So when we were thinking of that, the lyrics were something we knew we'd have to lean in pretty hard with on that, like what Alex was
Mhm.
singing. But for some reason that music really just came in such a simple way. It was very like if you hear just the guitars and you hear just the riffs, it's very straight ahead, very rock, very,
Mhm.
Rage Against the Machine style, that kind of thing. A little bit
Yeah.
simpler on the guitar, but more rhythmically driven. So it's kind of like it leaves that room for the vocals. And the vocals are
Mhm.
very, Alex is a great singer, but they're very straight down the line.
Yeah.
And like you were just singing it before we hopped on here.
Yeah.
That's kind of the point, is we wanted people to be able to hear the vocals, hear the lyrics, and really know, okay, this person wants you to know who they are. They want you to know that all eyes have to be on them. And I think it really reflected that. So for that one, it was more the music came first, but we knew the direction that we wanted the lyrics to go. But I think with
Hmm.
any song, it's really important to be able to space everything like that, right? I'm a big fan of like technical death metal and things like that, where you have
Yeah.
1,400 things going on at the same time.
Yeah.
That's all great, but when you write different styles of music, sometimes you want the instrumentation to be the bed on which the music sits. Right. So
Yes.
that's what we did here. It was really rhythmic. It was really in your face. It's really punchy, but then the vocals just kind of float on top. And that's where your attention is drawn to.
Yeah. And hearing a few of the songs that you wrote, that you produced, uh, I can sense, yeah, of course, that you have like a rock, metal, heavy metal background and stuff like that. Then the Mercedes Martinez song happened, an incredibly elaborate reggaeton. For the people who haven't listened to it, you can go check it on YouTube, on Bandcamp. We're gonna plug it in later, and of course on Impact as well. She's using it right now, and that Mercedes Martinez song, it's very different, and it's very elaborate, and there is a cool touch in the right in the middle of the song. There's a part that where you play the classical guitar. Is that right? Was it right?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, that was a really nice touch in my opinion. Was it a challenge to write something that was kind of different from your usual suspects, let's say?
It's kind of interesting, right? Because I always bring up, and there's a lot kind of like in my John Kiernan ecosystem, so to speak, of my rock and metal background. Predominantly, my
Mm-hmm.
parent style is more rock and metal. I'm very much known for when I pick up my guitar, those are the kind of riffs that I create.
Yeah.
But really, I would always say that my strength, even more than guitar, has always been composing. And one of the
Okay.
biggest things for me was being able to compose for, music, for TV, for video games, things like that. And I remember when I was much younger and even in college for music, the big thing was, how do you become successful as a musician?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you need to either A, be really, 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 really good at that one thing and be like the specialist in that,
Yeah.
or you need to be versatile. And it's as much as I'm always like that guy who just says, okay, cool, I'm really into like technical death metal, I'm not one of these snobby like musical elitists. I'm always like, oh, I listen to country music, I listen
Yeah.
to reggaeton, I listen to metal, I listen to all this stuff. So kind of in that same mode of, okay, you have to be able to compose, you have to be able to like everything, or at least find things that you can be inspired from in each style. You also
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to compose in each style. And
Yeah.
reggaeton's not a style I traditionally compose, and you are correct in that. But when Mercedes Martinez was like, hey, here's the style that I'm looking for, here are some different things that
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking and really inspire me, then what I'm able to do is I'm able to find those bits of inspiration, and I'm able to go, okay, cool, what makes reggaeton? But
Yeah.
even more than that, what makes Mercedes Martinez? If you're familiar with some of the other themes that she's used, she ended up having the I forget what the theme was called. I think it was called like Reggaeton Revolution, what she
Mm-hmm.
used in the Mae Young classic, and she loved that one. And with that, it really brought a lot of who she is in her
Yes.
personality. So I wanted to basically create something that was like, okay, cool, this is the new evolved version
Brass City
of
Evolution. Yeah.
Mercedes. Yeah. So with that, it was like, okay, cool, what made that song pop? What were some of those musical elements? It was a lot more digital. We had a little bit more of like scalar wise and chord wise, we were going a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more down the Spanish road, you know what I mean, and things
Yes.
like that.
Yeah.
So
That's what
those
I
are
picked up because of the classical guitar. Yeah, that sounded familiar to me.
exactly. And even I like getting a little bit theoretical here too, because in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
world of kind of
Feel
like
free to do
electronic,
that.
yes, I'm such a theory nerd. And in the
Oh,
world of
don't
like
tell me
theme
that.
composers and things like that, we often are like, oh, theories. I'm the biggest theory guy in the world. And when you hear the chord progression, it descends downwards. And a lot
Yes.
of the music that you kind of associate with a lot of like that Spanish music has that descending the
Hmm.
descending chord structure and descending scale, like the Andalusian pattern.
Yes.
So you all of a sudden take that and you go, oh, it works in this style because it's, whatever the case may be. So even chordally, it was like, okay, cool. If we're making it in this style, let's just keep descending. Let's keep the
Hmm.
chord progression descending. And then, like you said, we can go in and add some of that classical guitar in there, which falls in that harmonic minor scale, which is, it's super cool.
Yes.
So that was kind of the thought process behind all of that. That one I did not have any vocals for, though. That one she was like, nope, no vocals, it's fine. So
Okay.
there was that.
Okay. I noticed that you don't often rely on vocals. Is that
Yeah.
is that
It
because do you write the lyrics as well when you do, or you usually work with with other composers or stuff like that?
The majority of the times I try to keep as much compositional control as I can. And I don't
Hmm.
mean that from any sorts of like kind of grabby kind of ways. I just mean more as a
Hmm.
composer. I kind of hear what I want and I know where I kind of want the song to go. Myself, by trade, I am not a vocalist. Although you
Okay.
will probably hear my vocals on, a couple of tracks. If you look through, you'll be like, that one's got interesting vocals. That's probably me. But when it comes to do I write the lyrics? A lot of the times I do. If it's
Hmm.
something where I really know that the vocalist can knock it out of the park, I'll go,
Yeah.
you know what? Here's the wrestler, here's the theme. So I entrust you with that. But a lot of the times, because I'm working directly with the wrestler, I usually end up writing the lyrics along with the melody.
Hmm.
One where that actually, I'll break the fourth wall a little bit here. One
Yes.
of the themes I'm currently working on is for a wrestler who's anime inspired, right? She's a superhero. It's super cool. And the
Okay.
lyrics are both in Japanese and English. It hasn't come out probably by the time this interview does, but it'll probably
Uh-huh.
be out in like a month or two. And
Okay.
that one, I had brought in a vocalist from Malaysia who's just phenomenal. Rena Hemi is her name.
Hmm.
And I'll send you all the links and everything. But
Yeah. I would
yeah,
love to hear it.
she was able to take the lyrics that I wrote and I said, okay, we need the verse to be in Japanese and then we need the everything else to be in English. So she was able to, be able to help out on that front. But so it varies. It varies on the song, it
Yeah.
varies on the vocalist, and ultimately, yeah, it really varies more on the piece and on the wrestler too. Sometimes the wrestler's like, I want to approve everything before we send it off to a vocalist. Other
Hmm.
times, if it's like I know the vocalist can rock it out and they're going to do an amazing job, then the wrestler trusts me with it and they just say, go for it.
Yeah. And about Mercedes Martinez, I want to know how was the process of working with her? I mean, she was released from her contract with WWE, and then did you guys already knew each other? Did you reach out? What how did it came up to be?
Yeah, Mercedes Martinez, and I've said this before publicly. Mercedes Martinez, before she even went to WWE or even before she was on AEW,
Mhm.
was and is one of my favorite women's wrestler of the last 10 years. And I
Absolutely.
think she's extremely, extremely underrated. She's one of those people that like she you see all of these promotions that are growing in popularity. You see WWE,
Hmm.
you see AEW, you see all of them, and
Yeah.
everybody's just like, how is she not signed somewhere? And then when she gets signed somewhere, they're just like, how is she not breaking everybody's arm? Like, I don't get, like, it's simple to book Mercedes Martinez. Just let her go out, do her thing, and give her all the championships, and then she can leave and go somewhere else and take those champions. It's
Yeah.
simple. Maybe it's simple to me, but I had told her, I had reached out to her and I had said, just exactly that. I was like, you're honestly one of my favorite wrestlers of the last 10 years. And it would be really cool to put something together for you.
Mm.
Um, Mercedes Martinez, as much as I'm talking about her being an arm breaker and all that kind of stuff, one of the nicest people in the world, just an incredible talent as well in the ring.
Yeah,
And the
that's often
process
the
with her,
case.
yeah. I gratefully with all the wrestlers that I've worked with, I have to say wrestlers are some of the nicest people and most cordial people in the world. And Mercedes Martinez was no different. So with her, I would go ahead and send her a couple of different takes of what I was thinking. She would give me feedback on it. And when we liked a direction, we would just keep moving in that direction. But it was always, does this reflect Mercedes Martinez, how Mercedes Martinez wants to be reflected? That's kind of how I approach a lot of themes too, because
Mhm.
it's and I've gotten a little bit controversial when I say this. It's almost less about what the wrestler listens to on their off time, and it's
Yeah.
more about what the wrestler wants portrayed when they go live. And so a lot of the questions that I ask wrestlers are things like that, who are like, even if I know Mercedes Martinez over the last
Hmm.
decade or so, I still ask her the same question I ask everybody else, someone that I haven't heard of before. What do you want the audience to know about you before you even hit the ring? When they hear your theme, what do you want them to think? Because the theme should be the score for your wrestling movie, so to speak.
Hmm.
And, with that, I think that helps answer a lot of questions as to how you're going to write, what you're going to write, and it makes
Yeah.
the music that you write ultimately fit the character way more than just, okay, cool, you're a bad guy, let's do death metal. And
Yeah.
I use Aleister Black as a perfect example. I think his theme is called Ugentrost. To me, that's one of like the best themes of like the last decade too. Because again, it portrays him perfectly. It portrays the struggle. It portrays just this like
Yeah.
this just disgusting howl of vocals. And then they went, you know what we're also gonna do? We're gonna turn the lights off. And then he's gonna show up at different parts of the ring. It's such a perfect thing. Like to me, that is what we should all strive for if we're writing entrance themes. Not just, okay, cool, it's a cool song, but like that perfectly portrays somebody. I felt like Mercedes Martinez does for her as well.
Yeah. And what do you think of wrestlers that aren't using custom wrestling teams, but for example, first one that comes to mind, Edge with Alter Bridge Metalingus. What do you think of that? Because I think that people are kind of divided on this opinion. Someone says, "Oh, he should have his own team, like the Undertaker, for example, so a team that resonates with people and with the character." And others say, no, I just want to fucking rock the shit out of Ruby Soho, for,
Right.
this kind of stuff. What's your take? Of course, that's your job as well. But as a fan, what do you prefer to?
Sure. I think it really varies. Originally wrestling music wasn't custom. Like the original wrestling theme songs that were out there weren't custom tracks for wrestlers. It was usually something that was out there and it just resonated with who the character was, right? So, like in the early 50s, 60s, 70s, it was usually like, again, Pomp and Circumstance is not a custom
Yeah,
track. Pomp and Circumstance is a piece of music that's existed for years. Same thing with 2001 Space Odyssey for, Ric
yeah,
Flair and things like that. So, it's less about having a custom theme and more about having something that will ultimately define and fit the character. Now that being said,
hmm,
you bring up someone like the Undertaker and you bring up someone like Edge.
yes,
Remember, Edge has also gone through 5 different themes. He had the Rob Zombie
yes,
theme. He had Metalingus by Alter Bridge, like you said. He had the Brood theme. So he's gone
hmm,
through a lot of. He even had the one before Rob Zombie where it was just like did it, and it was just like the
yeah,
Ticketron of him running down the block like 40 times. Like that was cool. But all of those were very different for him at different stages. Um, Edge, as we've seen him recently and like
hmm,
kind of over the last 10 years, has been more of just a wrestler, right? He's been a wrestler
yeah,
that is cerebral. So the theme, I think, for Metalingus fits him. It's a little bit
hmm,
darker. It
yeah,
makes sense. It's also a driving theme. But when he was doing more of the Brood, that custom theme that they had that Jim Johnston
yeah,
put together totally fit. I'll say that there's two sides to it, right? You think someone like The Undertaker, right? The Undertaker has a custom theme song. I always tell people it's simply just a funeral dirge. I forget what composer, but that melody is in the public domain from the
yeah,
Undertaker's theme, at least the first part. Um, but at the same time, a custom theme really makes sense for him. The thing that we're starting to run into now is that you have wrestlers that are wrestling on the indies and even in bigger
hmm,
promotions where they may be able to get the rights for music that is on the radio or is
yeah,
produced by another band. um, but if you don't, then it can put a lot of issues, and this is the second part of it, right? It can put a
yeah,
lot of issues when you go onto Fight TV, when you go onto TV, when you go to different promotions. So I think that it's always musically about what fits the wrestler. Dude, if Simple Man fits the wrestler like it does for Mace Warner, by all means do that. But all of a sudden, if the promotions that you're working with all of a sudden go and now they have to pay royalties on that, and then you have this entire back catalog of music that you now have to figure out how to do the royalty split for,
yeah,
not you kind of put yourself in a weird place. And is it the wrestler that it should fall on? Is it the promotion? who knows? My whole thing and why custom music I think makes more sense nowadays
Hmm.
is because there's number one, there's so many more wrestlers than there were years ago. Number two, you can get way more custom and make sure
Yeah,
that when you go to other promotions that your music can follow you. Remember, a wrestler isn't just about one promotion. A wrestler's story now goes through different promotions. You know, you have
yeah,
AEW who's saying like, "Oh, I wrestled this guy 15 years ago in a bingo hall in Germany," right? Okay, that's
yeah,
cool. So we're now seeing that it's not a promotion, it's
hmm
the wrestler's journey that's going through. You have these cross promotional stories that range over years now that you can pull back from. And I think it becomes tough to really define a wrestler if they have to use 15 different tracks, which is why I think the custom music makes a little bit
yeah.
more sense.
Also that applies as well with the wrestler's name. You know, I mean, they make a name for himself in the indies, and they become known to the public, and it doesn't make sense to change their name in the Chili McFrosty or whatever it's was pitched for Stone Cold Steve Austin. You know,
Yep, Chili
uh,
McFreeze. Yep.
yeah, Chili McFreeze. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's yeah, that's a pity. That's a pity because I think that's literally how the business worked for decades. To wrestlers were going from town to town, making a name for themselves, and then you heard that name and wanted to bring him in another territory and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the same with music. I think people associate certain wrestlers with their music. So yeah,
Absolutely. And then even think of someone like Kane. By the way, I've said this before. I haven't watched WWE specifically in about 4 months or so, but a lot of like my musical background for wrestling themes comes obviously from Jim Johnston and
of course,
all that. So
any of us. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So think about like Kane, for example, right?
Hmm.
Um, when Kane
Yeah.
became Kane, obviously when he was Isaac Yankem, he wasn't using Burned or anything like that. But when he
Hmm.
became Kane, his
Yeah.
theme evolved over time too to what it became now, which I still
Yes.
think Burned is one of the best entrance themes, if not the best entrance
Absolutely.
theme of all time. But when you hear the Finger 11 song that they did, when you hear the way CFO manipulated it, it's like, cool, this character Kane has 20 years of this evolution that you see
Yeah.
through all of this stuff. And it's all like with the music, you know, when you hear that initial like organ hit, no matter what it is, or that first chord, you're like, oh, that's Kane. I regret my life decisions now. So that's how it should always be, unless it's
Yeah.
like a complete departure character change. And even then, there are ways to pepper themes from there's a lot that you can do, but yeah, the theme should always reflect the wrestler. I think custom music is the best way to do that.
Yeah. And speaking of which, one of your teams I discovered actually this evening is the custom team for not for a wrestler but for a wrestling organization, United Wrestling, Championship Wrestling from Atlanta, and that was such a nice throwback team. I loved it. I love the 80s vibe. That's I guess associated with a certain kind of studio wrestling with Atlanta in general because of course of its history. Tell me a little bit about it. Did you go contacted directly by Dave Marquette for it?
Yeah, so actually, I'm the in-house composer for the United Wrestling Network. So as
Okay.
of I believe, when Primetime Live came out, that was when I started working with them and doing original themes for them and
Uh-huh.
doing the themes for the TV shows, like you said. You brought up the Championship in Atlanta theme. Yeah, Dave Marquez and I met about a year and a half ago. Again, Dave Marquez is one of the nicest guys in the world.
Yeah, it looks like.
We're Oh yeah, definitely. And he's also really knowledgeable about not necessarily music theory, but when he knows what he wants, he's like, "I need you to write something in this style," and he'll give you like 10 references, and he's like, "This is what I want." So he knows all of like the different styles of music, which is super cool.
Yes.
The championship in the Atlanta theme, he came out for that one and said, "We want something again, like you said, that has a little bit more of that kind of feel for like that studio wrestling." And for me, my job is to think about, okay, cool, how can we take this just this great product of United Wrestling Network, and how can we keep the classical elements of it, but how can we modernize it a little bit?
Hmm.
And for me, I've always loved more of that driving feel. If you listen to the Championship of Atlanta theme and you listen to the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood theme,
Yeah.
it shares a little bit of a similar drive. I actually think that it has a similar melodic structure to Primetime Live, because
Okay.
that's one thing I try to do a lot. Also, is there we could talk about the Division Suite, which is another one. But what I try to do is, if I work with a wrestler who's part of a stable or a
Hmm.
company that has multiple things they want me to write themes for,
Yeah.
I try to link it in like subtle ways, even if it's like the beat, even if it's like the rhythms, or even if it's like a small melodic motif.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool in that way. So you can actually listen to the Primetime Live theme and you can hear references to it in the Championship from Atlanta. That one's super cool. That one's a fairly simple theme too, but when you hear it, it gets you ready to watch wrestling. It gets you ready to watch that style, and that one's one of my favorite themes too. He's just like,
Yeah, that's
here's
super cool.
yeah, he's just like, when he's like, I need this theme. I'm like, when do you need it? He goes, oh, 2 days. I'm like, oh boy. So yeah, so that was a quick turnaround, but he loved it. I love it, and yeah, I love those guys.
Yep. While you were talking about having some components of the melody of the structure to be consistent in similar areas, let's say, it came to mind. I don't know if you had the chance to watch the Marvel TV show about Scarlet Witch.
Not
Um,
yet. No, I
yeah,
need to though.
yeah.
But
How's that called? I forgot the title. But anyway,
WandaVision, was it? WandaVision, I
WandaVision.
think.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I checked an interview of the composers of the team, and that was fascinating because they had the team was literally three notes, but they change it every time. I don't want to spoil you if you haven't seen it yet, but
Sure.
like each episode is more or less in a different decade, let's say, and the same three notes changed every time from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. That was fucking amazing. And that was this basically the same idea that that you told me now. That's interesting how in music you can incorporate certain things, and maybe the audience wouldn't even notice, but they register it, and that's
Absolutely.
fascinating.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to even talking about theory.
Yeah.
If you learn how composers have composed over time, there's a lot of like, because music now is accessible to a wider audience and more people can make music, more
Yes.
people can make things and maybe don't know what they are. But just because
Hmm.
you don't know what it is doesn't mean it doesn't have a name. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? You may not know a shirt is a shirt, but you're like, oh, I put this piece of cloth on my body and it looks like this. It's still a shirt, right?
Yes.
So one of the things that we learn is about motifs, and we learn about, okay, you can change notes here. You can, if you're trying to build a piece, sometimes the best pieces of music have these little themes that fly from the beginning to the end. And it's not that you just repeat it 400 times. You change
Hmm.
it, you add ornamentations, you change the key, you
Yeah.
modulate, you do all these different things. And it's no different when it comes to a wrestling theme. It's no different when it comes to, like you said, WandaVision and the score like that. Interstellar is another great example. Have you ever seen that
Hmm.
movie? That Hans Zimmer is just a master at doing
Oh yeah.
this. So, if you listen to a lot of his theme, or his not his themes, he doesn't write wrestling themes. He could though. He'd be great
It
at it.
could, yeah,
But
it'd be great. I
but
think
if you listen,
it'd be doing pretty okay.
absolutely, yeah, he can do whatever he wants. He's Hans Zimmer. But if you listen to like his scores, you hear that thematic material move over the course of the movie, and you'll hear those little bits. Like you said, the general audience may not always pick up on it, but when you hear it, you're like, oh, it's here. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's this. And if something
Yeah,
good happens to the character, maybe it's a little bit higher pitch. Maybe there's a little bit more. Maybe it's a little bit quicker. If something sad happens, maybe they throw it on a cello and they throw it all the way in the bass line. There's
yeah,
different ways that you can do it. And when you listen to more music and you listen to music that really speaks to you, a lot of the times there are things that repeat, there are things that change and kind of stick to the similar idea. And that's what you can do with wrestling themes also. You can span them over decades. You could span them over simply one song. I brought up the Division earlier, who's a stable here out of New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had the privilege of writing 4 themes for them now. So I wrote the
Okay.
main Division theme. I wrote one for the Notorious Mimi, who's a female wrestler in the stable. I wrote
Mm-hmm.
one or I'm writing one for Travis Jacobs now, who's a wrestler for the stable. And then I wrote one for Rico de la Vega, who is a wrestler in that stable. And if you
Mm-hmm.
listen to all the themes, the main Division theme that they would come out to when they're all together is like this really heavy rap rock
Mm-hmm.
track that also has Michael Tarver of the Nexus on it, goes by Monster
Yeah.
Tarver on vocals. But when you listen to the Notorious Mimi's, the melody is similar. She has the angel wings. So when it goes into the verse, what we end up doing is we kind of do more of this like harmonic major sound where it kind of sounds like evil and it sounds happy. It can do all of
Yeah.
it. When you hear Travis Jacobs, his is going to be, because not out yet, his is going to be very thematic. His is going to be very trailer style. When you hear Rico de la Vegas, it's another kind of like Spanish rap style.
Yeah.
But you'll hear like those changes. You'll hear that melody that goes between all of them, but you'll hear all different styles. There's room to do all kinds of cool stuff like that in the world of entrance themes.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. When you have like those kind of Easter eggs inside the songs, inside the teams, inside even like a complete score of or on a movie or stuff like that. That's amazing when you have this like little reference that maybe no one will notice, maybe some will. That's and I guess from your perspective, it's even more intriguing. Did you ever like had the chance to put some of this, like even like a small tribute to another song or stuff like that inside some of your compositions?
Yeah, I do it all the time. And I think if you have a little bit of background with music and you're familiar with like improving and jazz and things like that,
Oh
I'm not
yeah,
a
I do.
jazz player by any means, but one of the things that they do is they'll take little melodic ideas and they'll move it like we talked about throughout their solo.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, some of the snarky jazz guys will go, okay, cool, I'm playing over the changes of Countdown and let's go ahead and put in the melody of Straight No Chaser here. Okay, cool. And then you get the music nerds in music school who go, guess what, I'm going to do in my solo, and then I'm going to go
Yeah.
off in some kind of like flat 9 thing. So absolutely, there's a lot of like pop music that I love, a lot of rock music, and through time you learn different licks, different melodies, and you can really build off of those.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll hear every now and again like little tributes to different things, especially if it's in the style. Like if I do like a punk rock theme, okay, maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's a callback to a punk rock band that I loved over time.
Yeah.
Or just to be cheeky, okay, cool, let's say we're doing, you know, a rap rock song. Okay, why not throw a little melody that's reminiscent of Gonna Know We Were Here by Jason Aldean, a country singer? Why not? You know, it fits in the context of there. Maybe it's
Yeah.
only 3 notes, but it's kind of cool for me to go back and be like, look at that. You can merge styles somehow. So, yeah, but absolutely. Yeah.
Congrats on you. And I want to put you in the hot seat a little bit
Okay.
now at the moment, because I one of the things that I really can't enjoy sometimes is when a wrestling team does not fit that wrestler.
Sure.
Is there any specific team that you've heard throughout your wrestling fandom, not only as a composer in general, even it can be even something from back in the day, that you thought, oh man, that's not him or her, that's not appropriate for this wrestler?
Yeah.
Did you ever find yourself thinking this?
Yeah, definitely. And I'll shoot a couple of maybe different examples. I'll use one of my own actually,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll kind of go into a little bit of thought about it. Again, when you write wrestling themes, I'm grateful to be contracted by United Wrestling Network, but I'm also grateful to be working directly with wrestlers who aren't even under that umbrella, right?
Yes.
So for me, I get to really work with a lot of the wrestlers just as independently, right? So the wrestler is like,
Yes.
here's what I want, and let's make that happen. Um, some people don't always get to work with the wrestlers directly.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be really difficult. Sometimes it's a quick turnaround too. And with wrestling themes, sometimes just like with movies, you know, if you have a quick turnaround time,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you got to get like the base points. Okay, cool. Evil, satanic, death metal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just got to kind of like connect
Yeah,
the thing.
of course.
You know, so sometimes you get a track that might be right there, but
Mhm.
it's like, okay, cool. Like had you had like another few days, you probably would have made something that was really right in the pocket of it. Um, there's one, and I won't throw any composers under the bus. Really, I'll just give my opinion on it. But one I'll put out of mine that that I would love to be able to redo. There's a song that I released in 2013 off my original debut album of
Uh-huh.
Oceans called Farewell. Very instrumental if you're familiar with like Andy James, Symphony X, that kind of style.
Mhm.
Very much in that vein. The song is a instrumental song, very Avenged Sevenfoldy. Um,
Yeah.
I had put that song away for a couple of years, and all of a sudden, when AEW started doing Dark, Mikey Ruckus, I'd been speaking to him, and he was like, "Hey, do you have any music that you'd want to submit to use for wrestlers?" I'm like, "Yeah, great."
Yeah.
Submitted that song, ended up being the song that Danny Jordan used while they were playing
Okay.
music for it. So it was super cool. For those who know Danny Jordan is the mean girl, very much from that movie, The Mean Girls. I think
Yeah.
Danny's a fantastic talent. Again, another wrestler where it's just like, is she contracted somewhere exclusively? I don't think so. What's
No.
wrong with you? You could make buku bucks with this girl. But with Danny Jordan, I always thought that her theme would be a little bit more like if I was writing specifically for her,
Mhm.
I wouldn't have written Farewell at all. I'm grateful that Farewell was used in AEW, and I'm always indebted to Mikey Ruckus for that.
Yeah.
And I think that she embraced it. She loved it too. She was in the ring. She was going. It was great. Like she loved it. But for me, I always felt like that was a little bit of a miscast because I felt like her theme could have maybe embraced a little bit more of the burn book. It could have embraced a little bit
Mhm.
more of like kind of the bratty girl who was
Yeah.
really good in the ring, but somebody that was really more antagonistic and not
Mhm.
so much like that song. When you hear it, it's very speedy. So you could kind of hear the culture clash a little bit, although it's a cool song. Um, but yeah, that's one of mine that I would even say, had I gotten the chance to write something exclusively for her, we would have gone in a different direction.
Yeah.
But other themes over the course of time that didn't fit people. It's so crazy. I would say that way more about modern talents.
Yeah.
You know, I think that here's what I'll say. I don't think that there's music that doesn't necessarily fit, but there's
Mhm.
music that doesn't fit the best. Because again, I
Oh yeah.
think with the short time frames that a lot of these composers have, they got to basically hit the points. Okay, cool. You have like okay, you have like a brute. Okay, we're gonna have a slow theme that's
Mhm.
heavy. Okay, great. But all of a sudden, what if you have something that, like, for example, like Keith Lee's themes have always fit, but the one that fit him the best was Bask in His Glory. That
Yeah.
was perfect. That was
Yeah.
awesome. And then they changed it, and people knew that they changed
People.
it,
Yeah.
but it's
People
like,
got pretty pissed.
yeah, it was like, okay. And they didn't give it back. They just made him do another one.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that one, I'll give you a perfect example. Retribution, I don't think their theme fit at all. Because
Okay.
again, like think about the Shield. The
Yeah.
Shield had what I would say is probably one of the best fitting themes because it was, again,
Mhm.
like it was slow, it was plotting, but it also had direction. They started off with the
Yeah.
army
Yeah.
lingo.
The Shield. Sierra
Yeah,
Echo. Yeah. Sierra
yeah, I
Hotel.
forget what all it
India.
was, but
Yeah. Whatever.
exactly. And then at the end, Shield. Yeah,
Shield.
from John Moxley. Yeah. I
Yeah.
thought that was great. And when they went with Retribution, you got to think about Retribution being a what I would say is basically like a group of people who were just out to cause anarchy, right? And
Mhm.
they just kind of threw like a standard rock track at them, like maybe a little bit darker, something that had a little bit of more like a Rob Zombie, Dracula kind of feel.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But I think you could have gotten that stable over even more had you done something that was a lot more. It sounds so weird, but I think if you did something that was a little bit closer to like a darker version of maybe what the Shield was, you could have gotten them over. And I'm not trying to compare Retribution to the Shield, like,
Yeah.
okay, just copy and paste. But what I'm saying is you have this ragtag group of people that are just going around trying to cause havoc, make that come out in the music. I think they just went, okay, when we were supposed to sign Retribution, then they went ahead and just put, okay, cool, here's stock music number 42. Here you
Yeah.
go. I guess it fits. Great, you know. Um,
Yeah.
Alexa Bliss when she was the Fiend, like the newest one, I don't think fits so much.
Mhm.
Again, I also think Bray Wyatt's themes have always been the best,
Oh
so they
yeah.
could have done that.
And you know what? I loved the original Bray Wyatt team. I loved even the Firefly Funhouse team because it was that like an evil kids TV show that was perfect. I didn't like the second version of his team, the Fiend one, which was basically the same song but a little bit darker. As I don't know, it was a tattoo match to me because the original song by Code Orange, if I'm not mistaken, is the band that wrote it.
For
It
which
was
one? The one that did the Fiends one, or the one that did
no,
the
the
Live in
one
Fear?
as Bray Wyatt. Yeah.
Oh, that was Mark Crosser. Yeah, Mark Crosser did Live in Fear, and then Code Orange did the Let Me In
Oh.
for the Fiend. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I got it mixed up. Yeah. No, the first one was perfect and was you felt all of the evilness that they wanted you to feel, and in my opinion, it didn't need to be upgraded to be even more evil. We didn't need that. That's at least my take. But not that it was bad or anything, but if it's not broken, don't fix it. That's that's my idea.
Sure.
And I want to go on the record saying that yeah, Mikey Rockos did some amazing teams. One of the last one, of course, it's all about the boom, and everybody is singing this song in their heads, and but yeah, even in his work, there is one particular that's maybe a pet peeve of mine, but I don't think that Thunder Rosa's team fits Thunder Rosa. I'm
Oh
sorry.
man.
If I'm watching Thunder Rosa, I don't see like an heavy metal singing Thunder Rosa. No, sorry, that's not.
I
You know
yeah.
what you know what I want to know your opinion on that. That's I, what what something that I could compare to Thunder Rosa as a wrestler, as a person, is Malagueña Salerosa. Are you familiar with
Sure.
this song?
Sure. Yep.
That's Thunder Rosa. That's her. It has both the Mexican heritage. It has a little bit of an electric guitar for a cool riff. You can use that. That's the perfect blend, in my opinion. I wouldn't go with a thrash metal song for her.
You
Sorry,
know,
Mikey Rakos.
I agreed with you a while ago. When I first heard it, I was just like, oh man, okay, but over time, now that she's done more of the hardcore matches, now that she's a lot more snug with a
Yeah.
lot of the moves that she hits, I really do like that theme. And that's not to curry favor with anybody. It's just
No.
when I hear that, I go, oh yeah, that one, like, it didn't, to me, that one didn't work at first with me personally, but
Yeah.
now that she's really come into her own, and now that she's been able to showcase a little bit of that harder in-ring style, I'm like, I'm cool with that one. I think I think Mikey Ruckus has also grown a lot. I think
Yes.
that when
Indeed.
AEW originally, came to fruition, he had a task I think is very difficult, right?
Yeah.
You had to brand how many wrestlers right away.
Yeah.
Some of them
And
came
he
in
had
with
to
their
work
own
really
teams.
fast for it.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I think we can agree that over time, now that we're hearing a lot of these newer themes, like the Redeemer for Miro is great.
Yes.
I think you're seeing a lot of these themes just be absolute bangers, and
Yes.
more than that, really fit
Mm-hmm.
who the wrestler is. And I think that now that you have all of this experience and background, you're able to really create that soundscape for the wrestlers. I remember there was a time where it was like, oh, okay, the best themes of AEW, the ones that aren't written by him. And I thought that was kind of I thought that was kind of shitty to say personally,
Yeah.
because again, like I'll always tell people, like, I am grateful to be one of those people that can write a song in a couple hours, like
Yeah.
Mikey, like Jim Johnston, but that shit ain't easy either. So,
No,
but
absolutely, it's not easy.
but
No,
when
no.
you hear what he's done over the course of the last couple of years with the company, you've seen it just elevate over the course. And when I hear a lot of his like more modern themes, I'm like, yeah, those absolutely make the most sense for the wrestler. I think he really got me with the Sting one, because for Sting, I was like, all right, what are we
Oh,
gonna do? Okay. And then I hated his TNA theme. His
Yeah.
TNA theme was terrible. That's one I'll say didn't fit the wrestler at
Yeah.
all. Okay, yeah. But his theme in AEW, it's just like, this is good. And then he put out the Pinnacles theme, and I'm like, that's perfect. I'm like, keep this, do this, do this. So yeah, those were cool
Yeah,
ones.
yeah,
But
those are the cool ones. Yeah, and as you said before, yeah, probably it's not a bad song per se. Is that others may fit more than that, but yeah,
sure.
of course, during the trajectory of a career of a wrestler, that can become even that can fit better in one way
Right.
or another. So yeah, I guess I'll give it a pass. Sorry, Mikey, if I upset you. No, just kidding. Just kidding. It's done some amazing work. Uh, John, oh, thank you so much for your time, because I love this chat so far. Time went by, and I guess we're getting closer to say hello, to say goodbye. And but before that, I want to know, who is a wrestler that you want to write a song for?
Oh man. There's a list of them, man. And every now and again on my Instagram, I'll post like, here's who I'm thinking. Um, I've been grateful to say that I've thrown out a few names before, and
Uh
then I was
huh.
able to write something for them. Um, it wasn't like, oh, it was because of that. It was just more like, oh, it's just circumstantially it happened. Someone that I'd want to write a theme for. I'll put Danny Jordan on there,
Mhm.
because again, I'd love to be able to
Yeah.
revisit that. And again, Danny Jordan should be signed somewhere exclusively. What are you doing? I just have to say that. Um, who would I like to write something for? Man, I
And
haven't
in
thought
what?
about.
I'm adding
Oh,
a second layer. And in what style?
sure, sure. Let me let me see real quick. Lindsay Snow is somebody that I've wanted to write for a lot. I
Mhm.
don't know if you know Lindsay Snow,
Oh yeah,
but
of course.
she's great. Yeah, I would love to put something together specifically for her. I feel like, again, she's just another like rough and tough wrestler that
Hmm.
I think we could do a lot of damage with in some probably some like rock and heavy metal style, but not make it so just like generic track number 46 here,
Yes.
you know.
Okay.
Um, that would be one I'd want to. Who else would I want to write for?
The
Man,
Rock.
anybody, it's crazy, you know. Oh, the Rocks is perfect. I wouldn't touch
Yeah.
that. his is fantastic. Like, and that's the thing with me is, people have asked me before, who do you want to write for, and they'll name like a lot of the big names, and I'll be like, the thing is, if they've got good music, then I don't even want to touch that. I
Yeah.
would want to write something for Wyndham Rotunda, Bray Wyatt, whatever he comes back out as. But I've also gone on record and said that Code Orange, I think, really has like that connection with him. They've
Hmm.
really developed that style. So all of a
Yes.
sudden, if he debuts somewhere, who knows where, who knows when, but if he debuts and they've got something by Code Orange, I don't think anyone's going to be mad about that.
Yeah.
Um, I would love to. I'd love to put something together for Dante Martin. I think
Oh,
Dante Martin's got
that's
some
interesting. Yeah.
really, yeah, he's probably one of my favorites right now. And I think that we can really do a lot to elevate who he is as a talent. Not that it hasn't been already, but he's
Yeah.
someone I'd really like to dive into. And like, I think that there's something with wrestlers who, and I've said this before,
Uh-huh.
there are wrestlers who have like Aleister Black. Okay, cool. He's got a
Yeah.
full gimmick. You know what you're getting with him.
Yes.
But there are some wrestlers where it's like they're just a really good wrestler. How do
Yes.
you draw something unique from that? That's where I think a lot of the work comes in. That's where I feel like I would love to be able to draw more from Dante Martin and be like, what do you want the crowd to know about you before
Hmm.
you get in the ring? You know, do we want to really highlight all the crazy shit that you do? Do we want to highlight maybe more of a character element that you want to bring to the table? Because again,
Yeah.
if you highlight something in the music, it then also gives the wrestler the excuse to highlight it in everything that they're doing, and vice versa. Um, so yeah, those would be two that I would definitely
Well,
say I'd want.
those will be something that we are all looking for now. So let's wait and see. John, thank you very much. Plug all of your channels before I let you go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you. You can always check me out at johnkieranmusic.com, my official website. That's JohnKiernan JohnKiernanMusic.com. You could find me over on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at John Kiernan Music.
Yeah.
You can search my name, John Kiernan, iTunes, Spotify, all the popular podcast, not podcasting, where am I? Of all the popular music outlets such as Amazon, Spotify, Apple, all those places. I'm also on Twitter at J Kiernan Guitar. That's the only one that didn't fit in the character, ladies and gentlemen. So
yeah.
here we are. And then you could always email me, johnkieranmusic@gmail.com. So all over the place. And then you can hear me on New Japan. You can hear me on United Wrestling Network, Ring of Honor, and all different places. So all over the place.
And on lmwpodcast.com. John,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Thank
Ciao.
you, my man. Thank you.
Bye.